Marvel's Predator saga that's been building up since 2023. It's about to go to a whole nother level now that we're finally getting into Predator Kills the Marvel Universe. And if by chance you're just stumbling across this now, I have links for you in the description for my coverage on all the stories that lead up to this, when we covered the full story of Predator vs. Wolverine, Predator vs. Black Panther, and Predator vs. Spider-Man, because all of that leads up to what we're getting into now. So with that said, if you're enjoying these videos, be sure to drop a like, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and don't forget to hit that bell up top to get all notifications. Alright, so jumping in, the first thing we do is pick up with the Guardians of the Galaxy as they're receiving a distress signal. And at first, Peter Quill's asleep, so Rocket has to wake him up, only for Peter to be like, I was having the most incredible dream. You were a chipmunk, Rocket, a little itty bitty chipmunk, and I'd carry you around in my pocket. And I'm just tell you right now, if I woke up my homeboy and he told me he was having an incredible dream, only for him to go on and describe it with the first word of his description being you, I would have just stopped him right there. It would have been like, you? Nope, don't want to know. But Rocket goes on to tell Peter that they're being pinged by an emergency beacon with a registration that belongs to Stark Industries mining ship. So Peter hails them while identifying himself as Peter Quill of the Milano, and the response is real staticky, but they say help, hardware malfunction, adrift. So Peter's like, roger that, help is on the way. So they request to dock and permission is granted. But as they dock and get ready to board, for a moment Rocket is like, part of me wants to let that smarmy billionaire Stark take care of his own mess. And Peter tells him, we're not rescuing the smarmy billionaire, Rocket. We're rescuing the gearheads and diggers who do all the dirty work for him. And as they get ready to board, Groot, Gamora, and Drax, they're all basically like, okay, so what do we got? What are we getting into? And Drax is like, you need me to kill anything? So Peter tells him negative. Everyone can chill. Looks like a mechanical problem. Equivalent of a flat tire. And Drax is like, that's boring and stupid. Like you. But when Peter and Rocket board this ship, it's dark, it's quiet, and it has Peter saying that he probably should have introduced himself as Star-Lord so they could get a proper hero's welcome. But right off the bat, Rocket, he doesn't like the look of this one bit. And as they continue in just a few steps further, suddenly both Rocket and Peter have these 3 red dots on their chest. And as soon as Rocket sees it, he gets the idea, but there's hardly any time for him to communicate or explain it to Quill before Quill's hit with a concussive plasma blast straight to the chest, pushing his lungs out of the back of his ribcage. But fortunately, because Rocket's faster and smaller, he was able to avoid getting blasted. And it's pretty sad, man. I thought Star-Lord was going to at least get off one legendary in this whole thing, but nope, he's done. But as Rocket is being watched, he is able to grab Peter's blaster, so he lets off some shots and makes a run for it. But back over on the Milano, as soon as the other Guardians hear something coming their way, it is too late, because that sound is followed by a smart disc, an Elder Sword, and other Yautja weapons coming through and cutting these guys to pieces. And I mean, Drax is killed instantly. Groot is just cut in half, and Gamora gets her arm cut off, but even still, it's not looking good for these guys, because when the hunting party boards the Milano, a very familiar member of this party goes on to say, you see, I told you, they blindly answered the call for help. That's what makes them such easy prey. Let the great hunt begin, and let Kraven be the spearhead. Because again, all this is continuing from what we saw in the previous Marvel Predator vs. miniseries, with Predator vs. Spider-Man being the most recent, which is where we saw Kraven earn his place amongst the Yautja after killing one of the Hunter's most deadly enemies, when they went on to brand him as the ultimate killer, and they made him a blooded warrior, just before Kraven left with them. And now that he's returned, it's been about 1 year since the events of Predator vs. Spider-Man, so Kraven has spent quite some time with these guys, and we'll talk more about what that means as this continues. But just after this reveal, we jump over to Virginia, to the Weapons Plus facility, where we find Dr. Cornelius awaiting the arrival of General Charlotte Pett. And now when she gets here, she thanks the doctor for accommodating her request for a visit. But the truth is, since Weapon Plus is heavily government funded, this makes her visit more like a command. And Dr. Cornelius calls that out right away. But the true reason why she's here is because the government's been doing a lot of cuts lately. And Weapons Plus is considered to be next up, with the program consuming over $1 billion each year, and in the past year, Weapons Plus hasn't provided any prototypes. So yeah, General Pett's showing up here like, yeah, you better show me something nice or I'm pulling the plug. So when Dr. Cornelius takes her over to what he's been working on for so long, he tells her again the same thing he told her earlier as well as this past year, which is that he's been terribly busy. And when he does this face scan to open the door, General Pett tells him, I need to know what we're paying for. So he puts forward his hand like you first, and he tells her, then by all means, take a look. So she walks in and she's like, I better be impressed. You're on the chopping block. And once she's inside, as the door starts closing, Dr. Cornelius is like, I'm sorry, did you say it was I who was on the chopping block? And man, after this door shuts and she's locked inside, the doctor tells her, "General Pet, meet Predator X." As she turns around and sees the Yautja from the ending of Predator vs. Spider-Man, who we knew was going to make his way to Weapons Plus when Dr. Cornelius showed up. And man, I cannot wait to see this dude in action. But from here, the next thing we do is head over to the dark side of the moon, where we see a very familiar ship making its landing. As we're told, only 1% of planets are potentially habitable. You could say that Earth won the cosmic lottery, but the thing about winning the lottery is you become a target. Others want what you have. The Yautja want what Earth has. The Predator King, who we first saw in the Predator vs. Black Panther story, is here to claim Earth, first as a preserve, then as a home. The planet has been cooking itself with chemicals and industry, heating up, and the Yautja like it hot. So yeah, I can just imagine these guys were bumping Nelly the whole way here. You know, with a little bit of and a little bit of And it goes on to say here, who better to lead the charge to hunt the planet to extinction than the ultimate hunter, Kraven. He had killed one of the deadliest predators of them all, a Yautja known as Skinner, and a hunting party had marked him as a sign of respect, as one of their own. And now as Kraven approaches the throne of the Predator King, he's immediately struck down. And it goes on to say, for close to a year he had been living among them, studying their ways, teaching them Earth's ways, but he was still learning. And the reason why Kraven was struck down here by a vibranium blast is because he's supposed to kneel when addressing the Predator King. And the person who struck Kraven down is the King's strongest son, who we also saw in Predator vs. Black Panther. With it saying here, this was a son of the Predator King, who was known by a name that roughly translated to graveyard, and who armed and armored himself in Wakandan vibranium. And for the sake of the story, I may just continue to refer to him as Graveyard, but on the topic of these predators and all the vibranium that they have, back when we covered Predator vs. Black Panther, we learned in this universe the predators had visited Earth a number of times, with many of those visitations taking place in Wakanda. And in this world's history, this is something that led to Wakandans advancing their technology from things they had taken from the Yautja, as well as the Yautja discovering vibranium, which is what made the Predator King so powerful. And as we saw, he went on to share that power with his strongest son, Graveyard, by way of the vibranium spear. And I can only imagine at this point that the Predators have way more vibranium, since so much was left in space towards the end of Predator vs. Black Panther. But coming back, we're told here Kraven still had much to prove, and he would kneel when addressing their king. And when Kraven speaks to the king here, I think this is going to be one of the most important parts of this story, even though it's just getting started. Because Kraven says here, you requested a list, a kill list, so I give you this. A roster of all the greatest threats on Earth. We will need to work surgically, tracking down their strongest one by one, and then we can take our time with the rest. And now what's crazy about this is with Kraven providing all this information about the Earth's greatest heroes and villains, this gives the Predators a huge advantage. Because had they just arrived on Earth not knowing what they were up against, which is how so many Predators in the past got wrecked, these guys would have eventually had been wrecked too. But with them going into this, prepared and knowing everyone's strengths and weaknesses, they now know who to go after first and how to take them down, as long as they can keep the element of surprise. And Kraven goes on to say here, I have only one request. This trophy belongs to me, as he brings forth an image of Spider-Man, which was more or less expected. And it's not long after this where we get yet another example of how valuable Kraven the Hunter is to the Predators. Because next he says here, with that in mind, one of our principal targets is only a spear's throw away, which now takes us over to the blue area of the moon where the Fantastic Four currently are. And right now, as they're all kicking back and having some coffee, Reed tells Sue and the others that his doomsday algorithm's been triggered again. And Sue's like, yeah, well, it's also been triggered yesterday and the day before that and the day before that. And really this moment, or this whole conversation in itself, it just goes to show how easily the heroes can be desensitized from the concept of something or anything ending the world. And it's kind of crazy when Sue asked Reed here, how often is the world not in danger of being destroyed? And he tells her 2.73% of the time, but only if we're limiting the algorithm's parameters to imminent disasters. So it's like the world may not be cooked, but it stays preheated, so really it's just a matter of time. And I find it kind of funny here when Sue mentions to Reed that she has work to do, and you know, they all do, only for Reed to not pay it much of any mind. He just tells Johnny that his coffee is a smidge too cold, and he has him bump up the temperature to 150 degrees by just dipping his finger in there. And this has me thinking of a couple things, because for one, Reed is usually the person who it's nearly impossible to pull away from his work. So this version of Reed, who's basically just like whatever, he's probably the main reason why this whole world is doomed. And secondly, when he tells Johnny to dip his finger in his coffee to get it up to 150 degrees precisely, Sue's just like, that's disgusting. And Reed tells her not particularly. No matter where Johnny's finger has been, I assure you the fire kills the germs. And I'm just like, man, I don't want to know where Johnny's fingers have been. He a wild boy. But lastly, just to get to know this version of the Fantastic Four a bit better, it's not like Sue is against them taking this time off. She's very much for it. And at one point, Reed even admits that it's difficult for him to experience deliberate leisure, which right there sounds more like the Sue and Reed of the main Marvel universe. But even with them having things to do after this, they just kind of push it off. Because Reed's like, oh, Ben needs more sugar in his coffee, let me take care of that. So again, it's almost like they've been desensitized from the importance of their work or taking these world-ending threats seriously. And they soon after regret it here when they're caught off guard by the world-ending threat making its way here to take these guys out. And now the team, they don't know what they're up against. But as we know, this is Kraven and his hunting party. But I like how when they attack the Fantastic Four, we see Kraven explain to the other hunters how to take them out. Because he says here, the Fantastic Four is a team especially dangerous to your goals. They are currently on the moon, yes. So they have the perspective to warn the world of our arrival. And they're extraordinarily dangerous. Reed Richards is the smartest man alive. Sue Storm might be one of the most powerful people on the planet, but it is more than that. They're a family. That probably won't translate. You likely don't understand what I mean when I say this. I have yet to see evidence of love among you, but it has something to do with intense cooperation and coordination. So we have to break them quickly before they can unite. And Sue Storm should be the primary target. Her invisibility is irrelevant, given your ability to pick up heat signatures, but her force fields will protect her. The Thing and the Human Torch are more accessories to Reed and Sue, directionless on their own, but formidable as a part of an arsenal. When you are a wolf hunting for elk, you startle the herd, and then you pick off your prey individually in the chaos that follows. And it's like now when we see Johnny coming at them, he suddenly has this vibranium rope thrown around his neck. As Kraven goes on to say, separate them, divide them, figuratively and literally, as Johnny is hit with the finisher, with this predator yanking the rope and popping his head right off. And I gotta say how, with this blue area of the moon, since the Kotati have placed so much plant life here, it's kind of made this place a perfect predator hunting ground, which once again just has me wishing that game had done better. So perhaps we could have got a Fantastic Four expansion. But after Johnny's killed, he literally goes up in flames. And when he does, it's absolute cinema, because Kraven's team, who's literally led by the Predator King's strongest son, Graveyard, they just come walking through this fire and it looks sick. And Kraven goes on to say here, do not, under any circumstances, allow yourself into close quarter combat with the Thing. He's the very definition of brute force. You will lose. So Kraven tells them here, keep him distant. And that's exactly what Graveyard does, with him using his vibranium weapons not only to create space, but send the Thing flying out into it. And Kraven even tells him here, like, you'll have to do without your trophy. I believe him to be nearly indestructible. Removal is the best strategy. So yeah, it's not looking good for old Ben. And back over with Reed, it's really not looking good for him. Because as Sue tries to get him to safety, he tells her, Sue, I've lost an estimated 2 liters of blood, so I'm going to lose consciousness in the next 10 seconds. So she tells him, stop talking, keep your strength. But he just says, no, this is important. Whoever they are, they didn't cut me with steel or even adamantium. They couldn't have. There had to be a powerful energy discharge accompanying the cut to disrupt the tensile strength of my skin on an atomic level. And after creating some space, Sue puts Reed down. And that's when he tells her that it had to be sophisticated tech bound together with vibranium. And it's like this whole time Sue's trying to talk to Reed and tell him to stay with her and remind him of what they talked about, of how important rest is. But at this point, Reed is no longer responsive. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to drop a like and let me know in the comments your thoughts on Kraven's Predator consultation and coordination services. I know somebody gonna be like, he's a water boy for the Yautja. But also let me know if you think we might see a handful of characters get away and regroup later on and eventually come back together just to get wrecked by Predator X. Because man, I don't know if this series is gonna be enough or if we're gonna need some type of spin-off down the line. Because if you ask me, how much more of Predator X would I like to see in the future? My answer is yes. And so now real quick, I want to give a special shout out to all the patrons. Thank you guys for all of your support. And for anyone who's new here, who wants more information on how to support the channel, I got a link below where you can go to patreon.com/DopeSpill. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. and we'll do it again on the next one. Alright, later.